In this latest retrospective, I share what I'm excited about and what was announced in last week's WWDC, how the lessons learned are affecting my poker game, and some exciting new announcements for this channel. Stick around. Hey, and welcome back to the Coco Nomad channel, where I talk about location and financial independence. I share tips, tools, and techniques to help you achieve a healthy work, life, and travel balance. In it, I share my experiences and experiments in making a living and a life. And this is a retrospective, a bi-weekly episode where I talk about my successes, the lessons and mistakes that I've had, and share what's coming up next. So let's go ahead and dive in. Number one, the number one success in the past 2 weeks is getting this lavalier mic here. I usually record when I have the podcast with this wonderful condenser mic. And the problem with it is it picks up so much ambient noise. And I recently changed apartments here in Medellin, Colombia, and my building faces, I have a beautiful view outside, but the problem with that is I pick up all the ambient noise. So anytime there's traffic, there's a car, trucks, scooters, motorcycles, everything like that, it really picks up all that noise, and it's really hard. So it was very difficult to record the past week or so, which is why there wasn't a topic episode last week, but it is coming up very soon. So don't worry, I'm back on track, just trying to work out some of the kinks of being new to video. So the mic should help. It should sound a lot better, I hope. And if it does, just let me know if you've listened to a previous episode, and comment below. Let me know improvements. Some people have been commenting and helping me with my technique. Again, I'm very new to this, and I'm just trying to get this channel going and share a lot of things that I've been talking about on the podcast for the last year. But I know everybody doesn't listen to podcasts, and that's quite all right. That's why I'm here. The next thing that I want to talk about, a recent announcement at last week's WWDC, which is Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference. For the last probably 5 or 6 years, of course, I have not been able to physically go to California to participate because I don't live in the US anymore, but it was nice. One of the upsides of the pandemic and being in quarantine is that this year they did it totally online. And the presentations were really good. I really appreciated it. And some of the biggest takeaways for me, the things that I'm most excited about, have to do with, the first thing is SwiftUI, which is the declarative framework that's used for creating apps. They announced it last year and introduced it. I started using it exclusively in January. I started converting one of my client apps over to it, and then I started a new client app completely with SwiftUI, and I started doing my own apps in SwiftUI as well. I had a previous app that was on the App Store, and I'm rewriting that one. So I'm super excited about this new approach. It's helping improve my workflow. I'm able to get more done, and it's simpler, and so I really like it. And they've announced some new improvements to that, some that were sort of really needed, others that were just more of like an inconvenience, and you have some workarounds. Which I really appreciate about the framework is that you're not stuck and exclusively using it. You can drop down to UI Kit, and if you want to do that for certain things that aren't available, they made a few more things available, like the text editor this year, and that was really good. The other thing that I'm really excited about are the changes to the Vision framework. So one of the projects I've been working on, I talked about previously, and I'll have a link. It's a game called the Reflexes app. And basically, it's an app that uses augmented reality to allow you to play a game where you're tapping targets at different speeds for different time intervals. And it's a lot of fun. It's very engaging. And so this is like my first dive into machine learning and augmented reality. Well, this year, they've announced that they've made some improvements, including these easy way to do action classifiers. So now I have a way to actually build a model for your ability to detect certain actions, like whether you're doing a rowing exercise, jumping jacks, sit-ups, anything like that, and integrate that into the app. And I'm really excited about it, not just for the Reflexes app, because we have some really cool stuff coming up that I'll talk about in a second, but also some new ideas that I've been having around things that you can do. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a huge fan of combat sports. Like I love Western boxing and Muay Thai and a lot of MMA. And I do a lot of training with that. That's sort of basically my exercise routine, is a lot of Western boxing, Muay Thai techniques, also capoeira, which I also do as well. And so this is going to allow me to do some really cool things. I'd like to, I'm experimenting with some potential applications in that space to sort of help with training, to help people get better no matter where you are. Again, I'm all about location independence. So I want to be able to make sure you can get those workouts in, whether you can get to the gym or not, whether you're on lockdown or not. We don't know how long this wave of quarantines and lockdowns and reopenings are going to go. It's sort of been ebbing and flowing as we go through these waves. But regardless of that, I want you to be able to get that work in, get that good work. Don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. And I'm all about that. So we're going to see how I can get that integrated into an application that people can use and improve their training. They also announced app clips and widgets. And I know Android people, widgets have been on Android forever. Apple is way late in getting this out. The way that they're doing it is very interesting. It's one of these things where I think it has some potential. I think it's cool. I can see some opportunities there. It's probably of the things that were announced, I'm like, okay, that's neat, but it doesn't really impact what I'm doing right now. I have some ideas about how the app clip could work for a potential idea that I wanted to work on a couple of years ago with some friends. We'll see how that goes. So I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach with that one. It's not nearly as exciting as the machine learning stuff that they did announce and what I can use immediately. So there's that. On the Reflexes app tip, I've been working lately on Watch OS integration with HealthKit, and some new games. We have some new games coming. So there will be a new version coming up very, very soon. I'm also going to be doing a redesign. We've got a great new design coming. It's going to make it easier to orient people within the app. And so I'm super excited about doing that. Probably won't get started on that until the next week. So maybe in the next retrospective, I'll have like a better announcement about that. But I'm going to include a link to the app. The Reflexes app is fun to play. You should totally download it and give me your thoughts. So I'd love to hear from people. It's amazing and it's very fun to see a lot of people playing it, different ages, applying it to different sports. We've had like a martial arts champion use it. We've seen water polo athlete use it, a footballer, so there's some footballer, there's some goalies that are using it to sort of work on their reflexes and moving from side to side. So it's really cool, and we'll continue to make some improvements there. So needless to say, it's clear I'm super excited about this product, about this app. It's one of the most fun things I've worked on in a long time. So I'm really just glad to be a part of the team and making that happen. And then finally, success is I have joined Toastmasters. Oddly enough, it's like I've known about it for years. I've actually had friends that are members. I used to work as a contractor for Atlanta Public Schools for years, so about 5 years I think I was there. And they actually had like a local Toastmasters group within the school. So it's like it's really important for public speaking. And I've never joined. And it's one of those things where it's like, why? But this year, one of my friends here in town invited me to join the local group, and one of my goals is to improve my public speaking in Spanish. So this was a great opportunity. So I'm looking forward to it. My first meeting is coming up on Monday. I don't know if I will have to speak or not. I don't have anything prepared. So this will be interesting to see, but I'm really wanting to get better. And because what that means is for this channel, actually, I'll get to a point where I think if there's a desire for it, I'll drop videos in English and Spanish. Still got to work out sort of like the bandwidth and my ability to do this, but I think I'm going to get better at making these videos, so it'll be easier for me to be able to do that, particularly when I talk about the development things. And I just want to say, I know some people, you got through part of the success thing and you don't care about programming. You may not be here for that. You may just be here for the location independent stuff or the financial independent stuff. That's totally fine. I'll be breaking these things out in a separate playlist. So basically, if I'm talking about getting down into the weeds and coding and you don't care about it, no worries, just skip it, keep on moving, stay for the stuff you like. Let's talk about lessons learned. And for me in the past 2 weeks, has really been one thing, and that is keeping up with the things that you know. So here for me, I think about in terms of the industry that I work in software development. You learn programming techniques, there's patterns that you know, there's languages that you know, but things are constantly changing. And it's really easy to sort of get into like a rut or get into a routine, maybe not looking at it negatively and saying a rut, but you know, you're staying in this space that you're comfortable, that you're doing things. But the world is evolving. Things are constantly changing. How do you keep up and how do you change? And it's very difficult sometimes because, again, it's a comfort thing and there's a lot of work. I'm seeing it right now in trying to create these videos. I'm not necessarily comfortable on camera. I don't know all of the tools and techniques yet of editing and doing these things. So it's a little bumpy and rough with the sound and the optics and all that good stuff. But in my job, it's sort of one of those things where you kind of get used to certain things that happen that are fairly common. And that is that, there's always new frameworks like I talked about previously in the success session, but things get also deprecated, which means, okay, these are methods and things that we're not going to be using anymore. And you get a little bit of headway and say, okay, start to wean yourself off of that and start to find different ways of doing things. But for me, the biggest lesson in that happened recently is in my poker play. Like, I'm a big poker fan, and I started playing during sort of like the heyday when poker really sort of got big in like the mid 2000s, like 2004, 2005, that time frame. World Series of Poker started having these huge tournaments, and they started televising it on ESPN. Well, I learned how to play a certain way, in particular reading hands and the way that you start and trying to put people on your opponents on different hands to make a determination of when you should play and how you should play. And that's evolved a lot. And I noticed that when I started playing online again and seeing that like there's a different dynamic going on and people aren't making decisions the same way. It was really weird. I was just like, wait a minute. Why are people playing at me the way that they're playing at me? And I wasn't having the success that I've been having in the past. And so I started to learn about ranges and how to use ranges to make better determinations of how you should play in these different situations. And I'm still learning it, but I just wanted to sort of like, as a big lesson, it's like the things that quote unquote, don't stay constant. They change. You run into situations where you need to update. You got to stay up to the date. And it can be difficult. I mean, you've got a lot of things going on. That's one of the reasons why I try to keep everything together on this channel, is quite frankly because none of the things in your life happen in a vacuum. You're not just working, you're not just traveling, you're not just exercising. All of these things your life is like this mix of all of these things, and they're constantly moving. You have to stay on top of all of these different areas. And I like to think of it as just like I'm a single person. And none of those things you can't just separate those things. I am all of these things. So I like to make sure that I'm thinking about them holistically, like everything, how these pieces fit together. If you want to add something new or take something away, it has an impact on this ecosystem, as it were, right? It's like you got to keep everything in balance. So keeping up with the things constantly being open to learning new things and being willing to change. Like, just because you know something and it worked for you, it's like, it may not be optimal forever. There might be some new things you have to do. I'm seeing that in all the areas of my life, but poker was just like a really clear way of seeing that, because like chips were just leaving me and I'm just like, whoa, hey, I don't like this. I gotta make a change, because I like winning. I like dragging pots. That is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm like, I have to step up my game or change my game, as it were, so that I can continue to do that. I finally want to talk about what's next. And for the channel and for the podcast, I think really to a lesser degree, I am bringing back a couple of things that I did a long time ago when I first started traveling. I first got into sort of this remote work, remote life internationally, not the domestic side. I had been doing that. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I started trying to do some different things. I experimented with Amazon FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, where I was doing what's called retail arbitrage. I was buying products, toys specifically, and at a discount. I would buy clearance toys and I would sell them. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking a foray back into that. I tried Teespring with print on demand like 4 or 5 years ago in Thailand, and didn't really have any success with it at all. But I'm revisiting it now. So that's the new thing, but in different areas, not just Teespring. I have an Amazon merch account. They've just announced that they're accepting submissions again, because they're opening back up in the US, which had sort of been shut down for a while during the pandemic, and they're ramping things back up again. So I am in this mode now of leveraging the print on demand options that are available, being Amazon merch, where I have an account, Teespring, still that's there, but to a lesser degree, TeePublic, and Redbubble. And so I've created a new Redbubble store. I'm actually going to have two because I have two different focuses, and I want to make sure that people that come to one store aren't really confused by seeing this other thing, and they're not really related. One is travel related and the other one is not. So I didn't want to mix those two things and cause any sort of confusion with users. So along those lines, I like to do challenges. So I have monthly challenges. And in the past, I've talked about things like my vegan challenge, which actually was supposed to be a month, lasted 18 days, and I tapped out. I was like, done, just not for me. And I was a vegetarian for 11 years. So that kind of speaks volumes to like how just not into being a vegan I really am. No knocks if you're doing it. I did find that here in Medellin that if you are vegan, there are a lot of options. I went to a lot of great restaurants and had wonderful vegetarian and vegan meals. In fact, it prompted me to write an app that you will see show up in the programming playlist for the Menu del Dia. So I'll show you how I built that app. We'll just go step by step into doing that. But for the July, I actually will be doing a POD challenge for myself where I will be creating 100 t-shirt designs, or POD designs, I should say, for the month of July. And then at the end of the month, I'll share what happens all the way down to an income report. So income report where I'll talk about like the number of things I actually got posted, where they got posted, and whether or not they sold or not. Now, I don't expect any sales in the first month. Quite frankly, I don't expect any sales for the first couple of months. I'm really more in the learning phase than the earning phase. So I figure there's going to take a little bit of time to put in effort to build up an inventory of these products that I'm making available for sale. Still have to learn about keywords and making sure that people can find these things that I'm offering. So that's the big thing for me right here. That's my focus. My focus isn't on the earning yet. It's on the learning and doing the work and getting into the habit, building this habit of creating these designs and getting them out there. And I'll share this stuff as I'm going along. And if in case you want to sort of follow along too, I'm kind of giving you a heads up. Maybe go ahead and create a Redbubble store and maybe start looking at some resources to create your own designs. For me, because I don't have a design background per se, I'm starting with text-based designs. And so this idea is that just going to leverage text, different fonts, different sizes, and just phrases and things that I think may resonate with people. And again, it's really going to depend on the audience, what they're looking for, what they might want to wear, why they would wear a particular design. So I'll probably share some of the designs at some point. Not all of them, of course, just because I know how that goes. You start sharing this stuff and it's just like, if it's successful, it'll get copied. But I'm not worried about that part yet, but it's just like, I think everybody should dive into their own creative juice or their sources and create some things. But it's good to get inspiration and help from other people. You just don't want to go too far with that, right? It's just like, okay, you shouldn't just copy, but you should like look at what somebody else is doing and then do your own take on it. So I'll share a couple of the ideas that I've had and some of the designs, and we'll go from there. So that's pretty much it. The travel tip, still here in Colombia, no plans to leave anytime soon. Although again, the announcements, they're still kind of in the air about when they're going to open up for international flights. But I did find there's a flight out to leave in July 1st or August 1st. But I'm going to stick around. I'll probably be here until the end of August at the very earliest. I just joined Toastmasters, so I'd like to stick around and really make some inroads with the group and really sort of build some more community here for myself. And we'll keep moving. If you've enjoyed this and you want to hear more, please click the like button or slap it, smack it, whatever the kids are saying now. Click the subscribe button and hit that bell so that you can get notifications when there is a new episode out. And I'm really working hard on getting better at this so I can have more frequent content that is helpful. I have a few more about getting started with traveling internationally and making a life for yourself abroad. So stay tuned to those. Again, if you click that bell, then you'll know when it's coming out immediately. You can get that too. Everybody take care. Thanks for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. And have a great week. Take care.